Would you want to drink water that looked like this and came from your tap? Well, you don't have to with an RO system. Hey everybody, it's Ben in Beta, and today I have another reverse osmosis or RO system for you. I'm visiting my mom, and currently this is what her water looks like when it comes out of the tap. And currently my mom has a water softening system from Culligan, and it comes out, it doesn't look all that great. And last year when I was here, she also had some issues with her well, and there was bacteria in it. So we needed to get rid of that so we didn't get sick when we were drinking the water. So last fall I purchased this Bluevua ROPOT system, and it's worked fantastically well. So much so that we bought one for us in Utah. We also have a high TDS there, or total dissolved solids, in our water. So we have an RO system underneath our sink, but we also use this system for some of the other things that I do at my house. And it's worked great for us there as well. But recently, a company called Jimmy reached out to me, and they asked if I would look at their Bewitch R9 RO system. And I happen to be in Wisconsin, so I said, sure, I know my mom's water still has that problem in the well. So they sent me this RO system. I want to be completely clear about that. But we've been using it now for a few weeks, so I want to talk a little bit about the system itself and also how it compares to the RO pot from Bluevua. Now the Jimmy has some other features that the Bluevua doesn't have, and we'll compare the two a little bit. I'll try to put up a couple cards so you can kind of see the general specs of both, but they're right around the same price. So in general, what are you getting with a reverse osmosis system? Basically, water comes into a tank, it gets filtered through a set of different filters through a reverse osmosis system. And in both of these cases, they also have a UV light, which kills any bacteria in the water before it gets to the carafe at the end. The Jimmy has 3 filters, but is a 7-stage RO system. The Bluevua is a 6-stage system, but it has 4 filters. How the stages all work and everything with RO, I'm not exactly sure, but those are the specs. In the end, for me, is the water good or not? And that's the important part. When you first get the unit, it comes with everything you need, including 2 carafes, which is kind of cool. So you can keep one in the fridge or something like that. That's kind of cool. The one thing that's important about any RO system when you first get it is you do need to do the flushing. You're gonna fill the tank and then run water through the system. And then the first 3 or 5 of these, you're just gonna throw away. You're definitely not gonna drink out of that to make sure the system is flushed and ready to go and is working properly. And then the same thing would go through the hot water. You wanna make sure you run a few things through there. We're gonna talk about this. This is one of the differences on the Jimmy system versus the Bluevua system. Otherwise, they're fairly small. Both of them have good labeling on their different filters. This one's pretty easy to get to from the top, and the Bluevua system is kind of more here on the side. They both have displays, so you can kind of see what's going on. The RO pot one is pretty basic, but it works. And the Jimmy system is got a few more features on it. It's a little bit bigger and easier to see, which is nice, and has some other features, as I said. But they're both gonna give you the source TDS and then the pure TDS at the end. And you're gonna get that from both systems. I know this is really hard to see, but as we run some stuff through here, these numbers will fill out on the screen. They're also gonna give you an indication of when to change your filters. Again, my mom's had this for a while, so this is about halfway through the filters for the 3 filters that get changed like once a year, and just 1 down for the one that gets changed once every 2 years. And here the filters are still completely full. We've only had it a few weeks. The other reason that I like both of these systems is they do offer the ability to remineralize your water when you're done. These take basically everything out of the water when you filter them. And there are good minerals that you do want to have in your water. So you can use remineralization packets or tablets when you drink water from a system that doesn't have remineralization. That's totally fine. Or you can get one that does the remineralization as well. So they do this a little bit differently. The Jimmy does the remineralization through the filters itself. With the RO pot, the remineralization actually happens here in the cap, and you can take this off. This is one feature I really do like a lot about the RO pot, because sometimes I don't want any minerals in my water when I'm using it for detailing things. So I like that a lot. You just take that out and then put it back in when it's time to drink. So it works pretty good and just clips onto the top. So that's one difference in basically how they handle remineralization, but both of them do that. A couple other differences. This tank is slightly bigger, I think at 5 liters, and that might be at 4 liters. And the Jimmy will keep working a little bit longer and fill up more water out of this tank than the Bluevua. In both of these systems, once you've used a certain amount of water, you're gonna wanna get rid of that wastewater because it puts it back into this tank. You can use it for plants and things like that if you want, but then you refill the tank and you go from there. So one thing I wish either one of these systems have, or really any RO system like this, since it's on the counter and it's probably near your sink, it would be cool to have a drain hose so that excess water would just get drained out into your sink. And then all you have to do is open up the top and fill it with a pitcher or something like that. You wouldn't have to take this thing on and off and constantly remove the water from it. It would just make things easier. I've not seen that feature in any of these, but I think that would be kind of cool to have the option to be able to do that. And the other couple differences between the units, would be, this one's a little bit less deep. It's a little bit shorter. It has a better display on it. It's easier to see. And this one also has hot water. So the Bewitch R9 from Jimmy also does hot water, and you can dispense water into a different glass if you want, which you cannot do with the ROPOT. So this is actually kind of a cool feature. If you want to use your own glasses, you want to dispense a certain amount of water and kind of walk away, we'll show you how that works in a little bit. Or if you just want to fill a glass up to a certain amount, so you can kind of control how this works, which is kind of cool. So now that you know how the systems kind of work and the major differences between the two of them, let's check out a few things. Let's see how they filter water, how that all works, and then check the TDS, both with my TDS tester here and with what they say on the display versus when they start and what they're putting out at the end. I will have links to all this stuff in my description, as well as a discount code for the Jimmy if you want to pick one of those up. And I would say that either one of these is going to do a really good job at cleaning your water. In the end, for you, it's going to be about the feature set you're looking for. They're both right around that same price, but the discount code, obviously, you're going to save a little bit more on the Jimmy. Anyway, let's test some of this water and see where we're at. So currently, both of these have water from the tap. All right, see, we are currently at 0 ppm. And once we stick this in here, so this is reading about 86 ppm or so, 85 ppm from the outside water. We're reading about that same 86 or so is what they're showing currently for the incoming water versus the outgoing water. All right, so now we know what the TDS is in the incoming water. The other thing I want to mention is we did finally have a professional come out and bleach the well, put a new well cap on, and there is no more bacteria in the well. So that's really good for my mom going forward, but we still have this issue with the water color. And she still has this color even with the water softening system. And we finally determined what that is as well. It's something called tannins, which is from leaves and stuff like that from trees. If your well's not deep enough, so if you've ever seen a river or a creek that's really kind of dark colored, it's probably tannins that's in there. It's not unhealthy necessarily for you to drink, but it does stain everything. So your sink, your toilets, it's not really great for appliances, that kind of thing. So next week, she's actually getting a tannin system put in, which will take care of that coloring and get rid of that for the entire house. Probably likely still keep one of these systems going forward, but we did discover finally what was wrong with it. Now that tannin system costs some money to put in, and it's $50 a month from Culligan to rent from them to get rid of that. These RO systems are a really great way, or an under sink system, something like that's a really great way to get rid of any of that if you have that problem, and you get really great drinking water, which is, I think, really important, especially when people come over. Even if this is not unhealthy, people are gonna look at your water and go, I don't wanna drink that, but they do wanna drink this. One other big difference is in the craft size, and the RO pot has about 1,700 milliliters when it's filled up. This is more close to 1,000. So that's something else to keep in mind. You can fill up more from one pot from here. But the cool part about the Jimmy system is as soon as you insert this back in, it starts refilling automatically. You don't have to press a button or anything, which you do have to do every time with the RO pot, and it'll keep filling until it determines the water is too low, and it actually indicates that here and lets you know when it's time to change, something else you don't have on the RO pot. Another kind of cool feature about the Jimmy Bewitch R9. So next, we're gonna go ahead and test both systems and just see how long it takes to fill up a pot. This system's a little slower, I would say, in general, but it's not a big deal because it keeps filling it up in the background. It's a little bit slower, but not that big of a deal. Both of them are gonna take a little bit of time to give you really good water, and in the end, the water is what's really important. But once we're done with that, I'll show you where you can get water immediately from this system, and it's kind of cool. And you can even get to the temperature you want. Let's fill up a carafe and test the water and see how it is after that. So this one's gonna probably have a little bit higher TDS with the remineralization. So I'm gonna take this out just so you can see what it is after that, because it does read it before it goes through here. But you can see I do have both of them filled up. And I would say in general, after one carafe, you pretty much have to empty this one out. Here I can get about 3 carafes out of it before I have to refill it. With the RO pot, you have a couple of different buttons. You can choose the size carafe you want because you can fill it up halfway, part way. You can put a glass underneath here if you want. We pretty much always fill up the full thing every time, so we always leave it on full. But you do have to press it once to turn it on if it's been off for a while, and then you click it again, and it'll start. Now, while that one's running, the Jimmy is a little bit different. All you're gonna do is stick your carafe in, and as long as you have water here, it's gonna start filling it up pretty much immediately. And you can see there's some water coming in here now, and then everything will turn on, pumps and all that kind of stuff. So you're not gonna really hear either of these run, which is great. And then this is telling me the current temperature of the water here in the Jimmy, the current source TDS, and the pure TDS as it's starting to fill things back up now. Back to the RO pot, we have about a 125 and a 12 at the moment is what it's giving for the TDS in and the TDS out. Really the end number is what matters, but you can kind of see in real time what's happening here. You can see that same thing happening on the Jimmy, but that's where we're at. So it's 125 in and 12 out. I really don't know if we can see it, but I'll do my, oh, there we just did 149 and 12, which is actually really low today. It's been in the 200s to almost 300 a lot of the time, so kind of interesting. And the Jimmy's still reading 182 and 3. Also remember that the Jimmy's already done some, so it's already added some TDS back into the water and is now having to filter through that as well. The cleanest water you're gonna get is from the first fill up because you haven't added the drain stuff back into the container. But you can see that both of these are providing very clean, very clear water. It looks quite a bit different. And I think it's maybe easier to see in the white one than it is on here, but I mean, you can definitely tell the difference. This is very clean, exactly like you would get from the store and bottled water. So there we go, we're filling them both up. And again, this one started a little bit earlier. This one has less, so this one's definitely faster. But honestly, that part doesn't really matter that much to me. The speed isn't that important. No matter what system you have, you're gonna be wasting some water, whether it's under counter, whether it's a whole house system, there's gonna be drainage water that you're gonna be not using, you might be paying for or pumping out of your well. So just keep that in mind about an RO system. In my mind, the trade-off is definitely worth it. Also remember, it takes a lot of time and effort to make these videos. So please hit that like button if you found this even just a little bit helpful. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet for videos like this, a lot of detailing videos, some overlanding videos, and some surprise ones here and there as well. Also, you might want to share this out with anybody who has some pretty crappy water and maybe would benefit from an RO system too. All right, let's get back to the testing. Let's take a look at the Jimmy. The Jimmy's finished. It's saying 208 and 3 at the end. The RO pot's almost done. It's saying 189 and 3. So they're both pretty close, honestly. So RO pot, let's just take a look at the TDS from this one. So here we go, RO pot. Let's see what it reads. It says 3, and it's reading 4. So right on the money, basically, pretty much perfect. Now, for the Jimmy, just to make sure that we're still accurate here, it's gonna start filling up immediately after I put this back in, so you're gonna hear that. But let's check it. 2. So it's actually a little bit better than it reads, according to this meter, but they're both very close. So they're doing a great job of getting that parts per million down and that total dissolved solids out of here, which is great. On taste, both of them taste really good. No problems there at all. So there's a quick comparison of the RO pot and the Jimmy Bewitch R9 and just how they filter water. Very similar. They both do a great job. They both taste good at the end. But let's take a quick look at one of the features that I love about this Jimmy system that doesn't come with the RO pot. If you like tea or you like hot water or water at a specific temperature, the Jimmy has a special superpower. So with the Jimmy, this section right here, if I just want whatever the water temperature water is, I just press this button and it'll start pumping water immediately and it'll give me that temperature. So room temperature water. Click again and it stops. But if instead I wanted water at a specific temperature for tea, for example, say I like my tea to be 185 degrees and I want exactly 300 milliliters of water, I click those 2 buttons and then I press this one. Now, if your display is off, you have to wake it first. Once you wake it up, then it's gonna work. And you notice it's still working in the background while we're doing all this stuff as well, and it's filling this back up. It's actually taking the water from here and putting it over here through that heating system. So I can hit that button, walk away, and come back and my tea water is completely ready. And you can see now we filled up, from this one tank, we filled up 1 carafe plus a little bit of the other one, plus we're filling up this, and we're still using all this water. But you can see it's getting darker and darker because we're putting back that wastewater in here. But you can see now, I walked away, I've got nice hot water. In fact, this glass is probably too hard to grab. So there you have it, that's the Jimmy Bewitch R9 RO system in comparison to the Bluevua ROPOT. Honestly, I like them both. I love the fact that when you put this back in, the Jimmy keeps filling it up and it uses more of the water before you have to fill it up. I also drink a lot of tea, so I really like the hot water. That is great. It actually replaces another appliance that we'd have sitting around on our counter. So I like that a lot. The Bluevua, I like the larger container for filling up things. It seems to be like just the right amount for a lot of stuff. The biggest feature I like about the ROPOT though is the remineralization, the way that works, because I can take this off and use it for detailing. I can use the water from this too, with it being only 4 ppm. Even if there's a little bit of minerals in there, it's really not going to be a big deal. I do like that I can take this off and basically get no minerals in my water from the ROPOT. Either one of these is going to do a great job of getting all the crap out of your water so that it's drinkable and getting rid of all the color and stuff from things like tannins. So both systems are great. They don't take up a whole lot of room on your counter. My mom has really enjoyed this system for the last several months, but she's really liking this one as well. I think she's actually leaning towards keeping this one and selling that one. So take that for whatever that's worth to you. In the end, I'll leave which one you want to purchase up to you. I think they're both great systems. I hope someday they can offer a system that has a drain hose attached to it and you can switch to that if you have that option, so you can just drain it into a sink. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions that I can answer for you about either one of these systems as well. All right, thank you very much for watching. Remember, live your life in beta, and we'll see you next time. Ooh, it's so good.